The courtroom was already tense before the cameras started rolling. The kind of silence that feels like it's waiting to break. Karen sat at the defendant's table, arms crossed, lips curled in contempt. "You've built your whole career on making women like me look bad," she said, her voice sharp enough to cut through the murmurs. "You make men hate women, Judge Judy. You turn them against us." The crowd shifted uneasily, unsure whether to gasp or laugh. But Judy didn't move. She didn't argue. She didn't even blink. She simply sat there, small, calm, and terribly underestimated. For a brief moment, it looked like the legendary Judge Judy was losing control of her own courtroom. Before we dive into this incredible case, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing where my viewers are around the world. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss more unbelievable cases like this one. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Karen smirked, feeding on the silence. "Maybe it's time someone judged you for once," she added, her words dripping with venom. Judy's hands were folded, her robe still, her eyes down for just a second. But there was something in her stillness. Something people in that room didn't notice yet. Something that didn't need noise to be powerful. What the audience didn't know was that Judy wasn't just listening to Karen's words. She was remembering a name that would change the tone of the courtroom within minutes. Michael, Karen's brother. A man who'd spent years in her shadow, watching her twist every story to make herself the victim. And he was sitting right there, waiting to be called to the stand. But for now, Judy let Karen speak. She let her mock, interrupt, even raise her voice. She let her feel the illusion of power. Because sometimes silence isn't weakness, it's a strategy. And behind that stillness, Judy was collecting every word, every insult, every sign of arrogance that would soon turn back on Karen herself. The courtroom audience didn't see it coming. They didn't realize that behind Judy's quiet eyes was a plan already unfolding. Karen thought she was winning, that she'd embarrassed the most feared woman in daytime television. But the truth was, Judy had seen women like her before. Women who built their defense out of blame and their confidence out of cruelty. And this time, Judy wasn't just judging a case. She was about to expose a pattern. Because, in the end, this trial wasn't about money. It wasn't even about pride. It was about truth, and truth, no matter how long it takes, always finds its voice. Before we see what Judy says next, I want to hear from you. Do you think arrogance ever wins against wisdom? Comment, "Truth wins," if you're standing with Judge Judy. Long before that courtroom showdown, before the cameras and the insults, Karen had built an empire out of outrage. Online, she was a self-proclaimed voice for modern women. Her videos, fiery, rehearsed, and unapologetic, were filled with one common theme. Men were the problem, and she was their victim. Every post began with drama and ended with applause. Her followers didn't question her. They worshipped her. She had a way of twisting words until guilt looked like courage and bitterness sounded like empowerment. And in a world hungry for blame, Karen's voice found an audience that cheered every accusation she made. But behind the curated filters and confident tone, there was someone else watching. Her older brother, Michael. The one who had once been her greatest supporter. He'd helped her when she had nothing, offered her a spare bedroom when she couldn't pay rent, and paid for her first camera when she promised to turn her life around. He believed she just needed a chance. But slowly, he started noticing the change. It began with small lies, exaggerated stories about their childhood to make her sound stronger, smarter, more abused. Then, one day, he heard her say something that broke him. Karen, on a live stream with thousands watching, said her late father had raised her to believe women were worthless. She said he'd been cruel, dismissive, and hateful toward her success. Michael froze. Their father had been strict, yes, but never hateful. He was the man who'd worked 2 jobs to buy Karen her first bicycle, who'd stayed up at night fixing her laptop so she could upload her first video. And now, in front of strangers, she had rewritten him into a villain because tragedy made her more marketable. Michael stayed quiet for months. But silence weighs heavy when truth is buried. It started eating at him. Every time he saw her face online, every time he heard her name trending. Then came the breaking point. Karen released a new video titled, "The Men Who Tried to Silence Me," including my own brother. She told the world that Michael had tried to destroy her career, that he was jealous, bitter, and controlling. The same brother who'd fed her when she was broke was now being called her enemy. Michael didn't fight back online. He didn't post his side. He didn't argue. Instead, he filed quietly a defamation claim, the kind of quiet act that speaks louder than 1,000 angry words. And that's how they both ended up in Judge Judy's courtroom. Karen came dressed like she was attending a premiere, makeup perfect, posture stiff, ready to perform. Judy noticed at the moment she walked in. The confidence wasn't real. It was armor. The louder someone speaks before they're asked a question, the more they're hiding something. Karen began with fire, her tone a blend of pain and practiced rage. "My brother's obsessed with tearing me down," she said. "He can't stand that a woman like me has a voice." Judy tilted her head, pen poised above the notepad. "And what exactly is your brother lying about?" Karen smirked. "Everything. He's spreading rumors that I scam my followers, that I take money and don't deliver anything. He's even saying I exploited our family for clout." The audience murmured. Judy raised an eyebrow, but didn't interrupt. She'd heard the word rumors before, and she knew the difference between a rumor and a receipt. Karen's voice trembled just slightly when she added, "He wants to ruin me because I speak the truth about men." There it was, the statement that revealed more than she intended. Judy leaned forward, her tone calm but cutting. "So, you're saying your brother has no reason to be upset with you?" Karen hesitated, just long enough for the silence to stretch. "No reason at all," she said finally. But Judy caught the microsecond of doubt before the words left her lips. The truth is, Karen's fame had come at a cost she never expected. The cost of authenticity. The people who once loved her voice were starting to question her contradictions. Some followers had noticed promises unkept, stories recycled, timelines that didn't match. But instead of facing it, she doubled down, louder, harsher, angrier. Because, in her mind, to admit wrong was to admit weakness. And weakness was death to her image. Michael, sitting behind her that morning, hadn't spoken yet. But his eyes told a story louder than any testimony could. He wasn't there to destroy his sister. He was there to save what was left of their family's name. Judy could see that. She'd seen it 100 times before. Siblings torn apart, not by money, but by ego. Karen didn't know it yet, but Judy wasn't her enemy. She was her mirror. And what Karen would see in that reflection before the day ended would dismantle everything she'd built. When Judy finally spoke, her voice was low, but sharp enough to slice through Karen's rehearsed act. "Ms. Anderson," she said, "in this courtroom, you don't get to perform. You get to tell the truth. And if your truth can't survive questions, then it's not truth at all, it's marketing." Karen's jaw tightened. The audience gasped. But Judy didn't flinch. Her calm was disarming, her tone steady, almost motherly. Yet beneath it was steel. Because Judy wasn't fighting for a viral moment. She was fighting for something far rarer, accountability. And she knew deep down that the real testimony that would change everything hadn't begun yet. The brother still hadn't spoken. And when he did, the courtroom would never be the same again. Judge Judy had seen thousands of cases, but something about this one made her pause. Not because it was new, arrogance was an old story, but because it reminded her of something deeper. The kind of arrogance that hides pain. The kind that masks fear with noise. As Karen went on, repeating her lines about men being afraid of powerful women, Judy didn't interrupt. She sat quietly, her pen hovering just above her paper, eyes fixed on the defendant. Each word Karen threw at her, each accusation, fell like a stone into still water. And Judy's silence was the ripple spreading outward, wider and wider. The audience didn't know it yet, but Judy wasn't just listening. She was testing. Every sigh, every eye roll, every misplaced word told her something. Karen's tone wasn't just defensive, it was rehearsed. Her emotions weren't raw, they were curated. Judy recognized the pattern immediately. The same pattern she'd seen in people who lied to themselves long before they lied to others. People who believed the volume of their voice could bury the truth. Do you always interrupt people you disagree with? Judy finally asked, her tone mild. Karen froze for just a second, surprised by the question's simplicity. I'm not interrupting, I'm correcting, she said quickly. Judy gave a small nod. Then let's see if correction works both ways. The courtroom chuckled lightly, but Judy's face didn't change. Her gaze was steady, not harsh, just unwavering. That was her power. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She let people walk into their own contradictions, one step at a time. Karen tried again. You twist everything to make women look bad. That's your whole brand. Judy folded her hands. You believe telling people the truth about themselves makes them look bad. Karen blinked. No, but then maybe the problem isn't the truth, Judy said softly. Maybe it's what they see when they hear it. The crowd fell silent. That was the thing about Judy. Her words didn't hit like a slap. They landed like a mirror. You couldn't argue with what you saw staring back. But beneath that calm, Judy was thinking ahead. Something in Michael's body language, the way his hands fidgeted, the way his eyes darted between them, told her he was carrying a truth too heavy to hold much longer. He wasn't angry, he was burdened. And Judy knew that kind of silence well. It was the kind that breaks wide open when given the chance. So she gave him one. Mr. Anderson, she said quietly, looking up from her notes. You've been patient. I think it's time we heard your side. Karen turned sharply, her confident smirk faltering. Wait, what? She said, voice rising. But it was too late. Judy had already shifted the spotlight. And for the first time since the case began, Karen realized she was no longer in control of the narrative. The story she had built, the lies she had wrapped herself in, were about to unravel, not from Judy's verdict, but from her own blood. Because Judy's greatest strength wasn't authority. It was patience. And now she was ready to use it. When Judge Judy said his name, the entire courtroom shifted. The sound of Michael's chair sliding back was almost too soft to notice, but the silence that followed it was deafening. Karen's smirk faltered, her shoulders stiffening as her brother rose slowly, every step deliberate, steady, and calm. He wasn't dressed like someone ready to fight. No suit, no tie, just a simple blue shirt, sleeves rolled up to his forearms. But there was something in his eyes that made even the audience stop breathing. Judy nodded toward the witness stand. Mr. Anderson, I'd like to hear your version of events. Michael took a deep breath before speaking. Thank you, Your Honor. His voice was calm, deep, and carrying the kind of exhaustion that only truth can produce. I didn't want to be here. I tried to stay out of this for as long as I could. But I can't sit by anymore while my sister turns every lie she tells into another performance. Karen immediately jumped in, her voice sharp. He's lying already. Quiet, Judy said firmly, without raising her voice. You'll have your turn. Michael's eyes flicked toward Karen, and for a moment, he looked more sad than angry. You remember when we were kids, he said, his voice soft. You used to say you wanted to change the world. You said you wanted people to listen to you. And I believed you. I believed every word. That's why I helped you, Karen. Every camera you owned, every light, every microphone, I bought them. I worked overtime just to help you start. He paused, and his voice cracked just slightly. I thought I was helping my sister chase her dream. But what you turned it into. He trailed off, pulling a small stack of printed screenshots from his pocket and placing them on the edge of the stand. The audience leaned forward, curious. Judy motioned for him to continue. These, Michael said, holding one up, are receipts from people who paid her for coaching sessions she never delivered. These are messages from women who thought she'd help them fix their marriages, only to realize she'd used their stories for content. And this, he lifted one more paper, his hand shaking slightly, is the post where she said I tried to ruin her life. The post that cost me my job because my boss thought I was some kind of abuser. Karen's face went pale. You don't understand, she whispered. It's not what it looks like. Judy cut in, her tone cool and unwavering. Ms. Anderson, what part of that looks misunderstood? The courtroom was still. Every eye was on her, waiting for her to respond. But Karen's voice wouldn't come. Her lips trembled, her hands gripping the edge of the table so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Michael sighed, lowering the papers. I didn't come here to destroy her, he said quietly. I came here to tell the truth. Because my father didn't raise us to lie for sympathy. He raised us to stand by the truth, even when it hurts. Those words landed heavy. Judy looked at him closely, something flickering in her expression. Recognition, maybe even respect. She saw in Michael what she always admired, quiet strength. The kind that doesn't need applause. Karen finally looked up, eyes wet. You're doing this because you hate me, she said. You've always hated that people listen to me. Michael shook his head slowly. I don't hate you, Karen. I hate what you've become. You talk about being strong, but you've turned strength into cruelty. You call yourself a voice for women, but you've built that voice on lies. The words cut through the courtroom like a blade. Judy's gaze drifted toward Karen, her tone soft but sharp enough to pierce the air. He's not your enemy, Ms. Anderson. The truth never is. It just doesn't always say what we want to hear. Karen's lower lip trembled. Her once fierce expression was gone. What replaced it wasn't guilt, it was fear. The fear of losing control. The fear of being seen without her armor. Michael turned back to Judy. I've tried to talk to her in private. She wouldn't listen. She said pain sells, and that's what people want to see. But pain doesn't sell your honor. People do. She sells people's pain. The audience gasped softly. Judy didn't move, but her voice grew colder. And do you have proof of these transactions? Michael nodded. Yes, ma'am. Bank statements. Email confirmations. Even screenshots from her moderators. People she stopped paying after they questioned her methods. He slid another folder forward. I didn't want to show this, but I need my sister to understand what she's done. Judy opened the folder briefly, scanning the top pages. Her face didn't change, but her silence spoke louder than judgment. When she finally looked up, her eyes met Karen's. Ms. Anderson, do you have anything to say? Karen's throat moved, but no sound came. The arrogance that had filled the room earlier had vanished completely. The audience could feel it, the shift in energy, the quiet unraveling of a woman who'd built her world on walls that were now collapsing. Judy leaned forward slightly. You said I make men hate women, she said quietly. But tell me, Ms. Anderson, what does it say when the man defending women today is your brother? Karen's eyes filled with tears. She didn't answer. She couldn't. For the first time, Judge Judy had the entire courtroom silent not out of fear, but out of respect. And as Karen turned her face away, ashamed, Judy knew this was no longer just a case. It was a reckoning. Because in that courtroom, truth had finally taken a stand. For a long moment, no one spoke. The courtroom had gone completely still. No murmurs, no whispers, not even the faint rustle of paper. Karen's eyes darted around the room, searching for someone, anyone, to look at her with sympathy. But the audience, who had once smiled at her confidence, now looked at her with the kind of silence that hurts more than judgment. The kind that says we finally see you for who you are. Judge Judy didn't rush to speak. She sat quietly, hands clasped, eyes steady on the trembling woman before her. Every fiber of Judy's being radiated calm authority, yet behind that calm was something much deeper. Disappointment. Not just in Karen, but in how often she'd seen this story play out before. The arrogance, the blame, the refusal to look inward. Finally, Judy exhaled slowly. You know, she said softly, I've been doing this a long time. I've heard every excuse, every sob story, every attempt to twist wrong into right. But what always surprises me isn't how people lie. It's how deeply they believe the lie they tell. Karen's lips parted, but no words came. You came into this courtroom, Judy continued, her tone even, accusing men, accusing your brother, accusing me of hatred. You said, I make men hate women. But what you've really been doing, Ms. Anderson, is making people hate accountability. The words landed heavy, the kind that didn't need volume to echo. The audience stirred, some shifting uncomfortably, others frozen, eyes locked on Judy. Judy leaned forward slightly, her gaze sharp. You've built your world out of enemies because it's easier than admitting you're the one holding the knife. You preach empowerment, but what you're really selling is permission. Permission to stay bitter, to stay angry, to stay broken and blame everyone else for it. Karen's face twisted. That's not true. It is, Judy interrupted, her voice still controlled, but now carrying a weight that filled the entire room. You've spent years weaponizing your pain, turning it into profit, turning it into a brand. And you've convinced yourself that cruelty is courage, and that disrespect is strength. But strength, she said, leaning in, isn't built on who you can humiliate. It's built on what you can heal. A murmur swept through the audience. Someone clapped softly before stopping themselves, as if afraid to break the tension. Judy continued, her voice low, measured. I'll tell you something, Ms. Anderson. When I was younger, before I ever sat in this chair, I met a woman a lot like you. She had charm. She had charisma. She knew how to make people feel sorry for her. She told everyone her husband ruined her life. Her friends betrayed her. Her boss was jealous of her talent. But I watched her long enough to realize something. She wasn't fighting injustice. She was running from accountability. Judy paused, letting the words hang in the air before continuing. One day, she stood in front of a judge, just like you are now, and he told her something I'll never forget. He said, you can either keep blaming the world or you can start fixing the part of it that's inside you. And I remember watching her face change. For the first time, she understood. The enemy she'd been fighting wasn't out there. It was in her reflection. Karen looked down, tears starting to gather in her eyes. But Judy didn't stop. That woman had one last chance to turn things around. Some people never do. And I'm giving you that same chance today. Because whether you want to hear it or not, your brother didn't come here to humiliate you. He came here to hold up a mirror you've been avoiding for years. Michael swallowed hard, emotion flickering across his face. He didn't move. Judy's tone softened slightly, though her eyes remained fierce. Ms. Anderson, the way you've used people's stories for your own gain, the way you twisted your father's name, your brother's reputation, that isn't power. That's fear wearing a crown. And fear, she said, tapping her pen against the desk, always falls apart when the truth walks in. Karen's tears finally fell. I just wanted to be heard, she whispered. Judy nodded slowly. You were heard. But what good is being heard if no one trusts what you're saying? The courtroom was still, every word hitting like a hammer softened by empathy. Judy leaned back, looking at the brother. Mr. Anderson, she said gently, you said your father raised you both to tell the truth, even when it hurts. I think he'd be proud of you for remembering that. Michael's voice was low, but steady. Thank you, Your Honor. Karen looked up then, her mascara streaked, her pride in ruins. I didn't mean to hurt anyone, she said, voice trembling. I just wanted people to care. Judy looked at her long and hard, then said quietly, they would have cared, Ms. Anderson. You didn't need to fake pain to earn compassion. You just needed to be honest about the one thing you were afraid to show, that you were human. A hush spread through the audience. You could almost feel the collective breath they held, afraid to exhale and break the spell. Judy picked up her notes, flipped one page, and said, you accused me of making men hate women. But hate doesn't start in courtrooms. It starts in hearts that have forgotten how to forgive. Karen blinked up at her, the fight gone from her eyes. So what am I supposed to do now? She asked softly. Judy leaned forward. Start small. Stop performing and start healing. Stop demanding respect and start earning it. Stop blaming the people who stood by you and start thanking the ones who didn't give up. Then, in that moment of pure silence, Judy added one last line, the kind that sears itself into memory. The truth, Ms. Anderson, isn't your enemy. It's your last friend. The entire courtroom erupted in applause. Not the loud, chaotic kind, but the slow, emotional kind that starts from understanding. Even Michael stood frozen, unsure whether to cry or smile. Judy simply nodded once, her face unreadable, but her eyes said everything. Lesson delivered. Karen lowered her head into her hands. The tears didn't stop, but for the first time, they weren't born of rage or fear. They were real. And that was the moment everyone realized. Judge Judy didn't win this case by shouting or scolding. She won it by staying silent long enough to let the truth speak for itself. Before we move to what happened after Judy's verdict, I want to hear from you. Do you think Judy's words were exactly what Karen needed to hear? Comment justice served. If you believe the truth always finds its way, no matter how loud the lies get. Karen sat frozen, her voice shaking when she finally spoke. You're right, she whispered, eyes fixed on the floor. I blamed everyone because it was easier than blaming myself. I told stories that weren't mine, hurt people who loved me, and I thought if I shouted loud enough, maybe no one would notice how empty I felt inside. The audience listened in silence. No one dared move. Michael took a small step forward, his voice low. I never wanted to destroy you, Karen. I just wanted you to stop destroying yourself. His words cracked something in her, and for the first time, her tears weren't defensive. They were honest. I'm sorry, she said. For Dad. For you. For lying to the world. Judy nodded, her expression softening. Apologies don't erase truth, but they open the door for it to live again, she said gently. You don't need to fix your image, Ms. Anderson. You need to fix your heart. Karen nodded, crying quietly. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something raw, humility. For the first time, she wasn't performing. She was present. Judy leaned forward slightly, her tone calm but firm. You said you wanted people to care. Start by caring about the people you've already hurt. Fame doesn't need your pain, Karen. It needs your honesty. Michael placed a hand on his sister's shoulder, and for the first time in years, she didn't pull away. The courtroom remained silent, but the silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was peaceful, the kind that follows truth finally being spoken aloud. As the gavel struck, the sound echoed like closure. Karen wiped her eyes, her voice quiet but steady. Thank you, Your Honor, she whispered. Judy gave a small nod, her expression unreadable but warm. Don't thank me, she said softly. Thank the truth. It waited for you long enough. Michael and Karen walked out together, not as enemies, but as something closer to what they used to be. The courtroom that once felt like a battlefield now felt lighter, almost sacred. People didn't just see a verdict that day, they saw transformation. Judy sat back, looking around the silent room, her words lingering like a benediction. Justice isn't about punishment, she said, to no one in particular. It's about reminding people that truth still matters, even when it hurts. As the credits rolled and the audience rose to leave, one thing was clear. Judy may have walked in as the judge, but she walked out as the example. If you believe truth always wins in the end, no matter how long it takes, hit subscribe and comment Truth Always Wins. Let's make this the most honest corner of YouTube.